All right, what's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 22 of LightShare. Today I'm here again with Andre and Adrian, and we have a very special guest for this one, the legend himself, John Park. So, John's been in the entertainment industry for quite a long time. He's worked on many projects from Avatar to Uncharted, Star Wars, Godzilla, and a whole lot of other projects. He's also the co founder of Brainstorm School in Burbank, California. Yeah, welcome to LightShare, man. It's
Oh
great to
my
have
God.
you here.
Thanks, man. You make me sound a lot cooler than what I actually am. I
You
should have
just
like always do my intros, man.
oh, no.
Oh,
Too
that's cool.
humble.
Well, thanks for having me here, you guys. It's really good to connect with you guys, and yeah, I don't think I've done a podcast in quite some time, so thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, the last one was with the art department, right? I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, they have a great one over there. So, um, yeah, if you want to just like maybe introduce a little bit about your brief background and like how have you
sure.
been so far, like
Yeah,
throughout the
yeah.
years and stuff. So,
Um, Well, hi guys, my name is John. I'm a concept artist and an educator. I've been working in the industry for about 15 years. I've been teaching for, man, probably 13 years. I started in 2009. Um, and yeah, it was just a big passion of mine. And I've connected with a lot of awesome designers and got to meet a lot of great people in both spaces, both the industry and the educational kind of industry. Um, let's see here. I went to college at Pasadena College of Design in 2004. I started off as a product design major, drawing like shampoo bottles and and like I don't know, like consumer goods. It was weird. It was I don't know why I chose that major. It's probably had some influence with my older brother because he kind of majored in that as well. And I just wanted to draw robots. And so anytime they asked me to design like a computer mouse or something or like a tablet, I always found some way to make, give it arms and like a bazooka or something. And I was like, I don't think I'm meant for this, man. I'm like I'm a horrible designer, dude. I'm gonna design products that are gonna kill people. So um I I started and it was really cool. I got to meet Scott Robertson. You guys know who Scott Robertson is?
oh yeah,
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's
definitely.
dude, he's
I've
a
heard of
legend. And
him.
even back then he was a legend. He's I grew up watching these videos called Nomen DVDs. Back then they were just DVDs.
Hmm.
And I felt
Yeah,
like they were kind of the first of the concept art gumroads. And I had a lot of Feng Zhu videos, and I also had a lot of Scott Robertson stuff, and I watched it religiously, and I got to see him in the flesh. He was like one of my first teachers, and it was cool, dude. It's cool. It's like when you meet your hero, like sometimes it can be a letdown where you're like, oh man, they're kind of not what you built it up in your head to be. But he was that times 10. He was exactly what I thought he was gonna be, even more. And I was like, oh my god, this guy is a gangster, dude. He's insane. He is so hardcore that during lunch he would always draw in his sketchbook, practice ellipses. He would draw cars, and I watch him demo, and I was convinced that he was part cyborg or bionicle because he never used ellipse guides. He would
oh
just
dang,
frame draw
it's crazy.
all those sketches that you see on Instagram. Like I seen those live. Like he wouldn't use any other tool except his hand and a pen.
Oh shoot,
And he was
It's
one of
like
my first
a
teachers, and
built-in
I said,
ruler.
I was like, fuck it, dude. I just want to just only learn under you. I was like failing all the other classes. I had like art history. I was like, I don't care. I just like I'm gonna just do everything Scott Robertson says. And and yeah, he pretty much really changed the course of my education and really became a pillar of who I am today. He's such a big like advocate for foundation and a great educator, and I think that's kind of how I got very influenced by someone like him to want to teach and give back. And yeah, and I attended art center, and I say I attend instead of graduate because I did leave. And it wasn't due to what you guys think it is. It wasn't because I was awesome and like I got job offers. I left because my family went through a financial kind of situation where they went bankrupt and all that stuff. So it was tricky because it was like during that whole 2008 kind of scenario, and around
Oh
2008
yeah.
2009, yeah, they just had to kind of close up shop, and I was interning. I think I was starting my first job or interning, and yeah, my parents broke the news and they were like, hey, we need some help. I don't think we're gonna be able to survive, and I just had to make a hard decision. So decided to leave. Obviously, it sucked, because I it's like I only have a high school diploma, and I was like, damn it, I'm like the worst example of an Asian, right? Because the Asian parents are like, you have to go to college, you need to graduate, get straight A's. I
Dude,
got
same
I got straight C's. I never graduated college. I'm a dropout. You know what I mean? So I'm like destined for failure, dude. I was like, God damn. And to top it off, I majored in art. Like, who what the dude? It's like the worst, right? And so I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be bad. Um, but like it was good. It just everything turned out well. Yeah, I just kept my head down and worked, and through my journey, I was mentored heavily by my business partner right now, James Pake. He took me under his wing, taught me really about the business of concept art, which I never learned through school. It's kind of weird. Like I don't know if you guys took like business classes in art school. Like we're just so used to like painting, drawing, and
Yeah.
sculpting, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't want to think about money. I don't want to think about that weird money like business stuff. Like that's so sleazy.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to paint
But
stuff.
it's like equally just as important. That's the thing. I was like, oh my
Mhm.
god, I don't know anything about this stuff, and so he really opened my eyes to understanding, negotiation, business, like language, like learning how to kind of talk with producers and really just kind of protecting yourself, and really setting a good precedent for you as an artist, and succeeding, and being financially set, right? And so yeah, like I was working after I left school, and it was just freelancing. I know I was listening to you, Dom, the other day. You're just like freelancing. You want that freedom. You don't want to answer to anybody, and like that's what it was all about. Just hustling. I did go from studio to studio. Got as much experience working in the game industry. And I started dabbling in film, and I just really fell in love. But the true passion was teaching. Like I think that was the one thing that always roped me back in. I always wanted to um, kind of just get back to the root of you know art and community, and it's not like I wanted to become a famous teacher or anything. I just wanted to demo and just kind of share people what I learned, and like sharing, like, hey, this is kind of another way you can learn it. um I felt like I struggled when I was in school. Like I didn't I there was only a handful of teachers that helped me out, and everyone else, they made it sound like really difficult to achieve, and I don't know, I never really resonated with that. It's kind of like they would make art kind of seem like this very superior thing, or like, oh, in order to achieve this you need to understand all these other complicated things. And I'm not like the smartest, I'm not like the sharpest tool in the shed, and so I was like, I don't get it. But when I understood it, I just thought, there's probably someone else like out there like me who has a hard time understanding. What can I do to kind of distill this information and kind of break it down and make it so it's a lot easier to understand. And that's what I liked. I really liked being able to share, these what I deemed as like difficult concepts, or hard fundamental lessons, and just seeing other people take it and run, and kind of do their own thing with it, and that was like really inspiring. Um, and yeah, and been teaching. Started at sorry, I'm like jumping all over the place, guys. I'm so sorry. I should
That's
have wrote
okay,
it down.
dude.
That's
Oh,
the
good, man.
intention,
No,
dude.
no.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
worry.
Like, then
exactly.
I got a dog, and then oh yeah, and I ate burrito last night. No, no, it was I started teaching at Red Engine, and it was ran by two good friends of mine, Jung Park and Steve Jung. And they are concept designers. Jung Park was an environment lead concept designer over at Sony Santa Monica, and he worked on all the God of War series. And Steve Jung was this incredible talent. He's just character designer, environment designer, kind of did a little bit of everything. But those guys opened a school back in 2009 ish, called Red Engine, and that was kind of like my first like real teaching gig, and it was awesome. Like I was hooked. I was nervous. I was scared. I was like kind of like get very insecure, and I was like shaking during my first demo, and I was like, oh my god. And yeah, but I loved every bit of it. And then eventually I taught over at CDA, Concept Design Academy, that's ran by Kevin Chen, another great school. He was so awesome. I took classes there, and he actually asked me to teach at his school, and I felt like it was like this awesome like promotion. Like I graduated, I became a student to a teacher there, and I was like, this is awesome. um, and then I taught at Art Center, and that was like the full circle, right? Because I left Art Center, started freelancing, working, taught, and then I came back full circle to teach at a school that I dropped out of, which was it was like the weirdest thing, man. I was like, what the hell am I? I'm like, I felt like a fraud. I was like, I shouldn't be here. I didn't graduate. Like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why you guys asked me, but I had a lot of that rush, the same feelings of why I went to that school, why I loved being in that environment, and yeah, and that's kind of what segued into me and James Pake opening Brainstorm, and we wanted to do our own thing, and just kind of see how far we can take it, and really share as much of the industry experience, and really design our own curriculum, because there's some things that we wanted to do that was probably a little difficult if you're just a teacher at a school, um, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Sorry, that was like a 11-minute, 15-minute intro.
Yeah, so
No,
because
you're
of that,
good.
we're out of
It's
time. So
yeah, it's great, dude. You narrated
Yeah,
everything perfectly. Yeah.
it's awesome, man. Yeah, you've honestly have like changed a lot of artists' lives, I feel, just through brainstorm and
Oh man,
all your
Indeed.
influence in the industry, like me included, and like these guys too. Like
dang.
I swear I've learned like everything from you, man.
Oh,
Like,
dude. No,
yeah,
man. Your stuff is amazing. I highly doubt that. I don't know. I just at the
Also,
end of the day, we're just artists sharing each other's like experiences and things that we discover, right? So
hmm
I don't know. Yeah, it sound. I mean, thank you. It sounds awesome. I'm like, oh yeah, I inspired people. But I'm just sharing kind of the things that other artists have inspired me, and that's what I love about the teaching part of it. I guess more so than the industry, is that there's this genuine like feeling of wanting to share and learn, and just like leveling up. I feel like work is cool, but I don't know, it just kind of becomes about work, and you're just like, nah, I just want to get the job done, get paid, go home. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, but if I want to get better, can I do it here? And that's not always the case, right? If I want to
mm,
improve and become a better designer or a better artist, like it's situational. Like not every studio is going to offer that, but I feel like school or some sort of educational community is always going to be there. Like everyone's rooting for you. Like, oh, learn this, or learn Blender. Like check out this plugin I got. This works dope. This is rad. And it's it's that energy like that I love. And I don't know. That's why I'm still here.
yeah, it's
yeah, I
like
think you touched on a very important like aspect of it, where in when we are working, it's not always like this positive spirit, right? we wanted it to be, because like, oh, I want to work with art, so I will love every day of my life.
Yeah.
And of course, like, we are lucky to work with what we work, but at the same time, I think that's why these art schools, especially like now that everything's online and everything, they have this positive community around, like a bunch of Discord channels and that kind of stuff, because people want that same feeling of like art events and art schools where everyone's there to improve together. And yeah, you definitely miss that a little bit when you start working, right? It becomes way more serious.
Yeah, and I don't know, it gets, I wasn't ready for the politics of it either, where people will say and do things to kind of get ahead. And I mean, I get it, but it's like, it's not the scene that I like. I'm like, I'm allergic to that crap. I'm like, get it away from me, man. Because
What
I
do you
don't know,
mean,
I'm just like I'm an
selling
artist, I
out?
want to draw, but what's that?
Like, what do you mean with the politic thing? Like selling out, like to say stuff that you're not really happy with saying, but it will get you somewhere if you do that, or
Yeah, I guess it's like, there are individuals out there, and I'm sure their intentions are great, but they will say and do things to kind of ladder climb to be recognized.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know if it's just because I'm a simple thinker. I'm like, you should get recognized for your hard work,
yeah, you stay true to
not through.
yourself, and
Yeah, exactly. Be true to yourself, not have to feel like, like what you're saying, Adrian, like, don't feel like you need to kind of talk your way through things. And I felt like there was so much of that in the industry, and that I seen, it's a little disheartening, because you're kind of like, damn, is this it? Like, I've worked so hard, and I got to this point in my career, and I'm working on these great projects. Like, for me, I was like, man, I'm working on these movies. This is awesome. And then you're like, this is your environment. These are some of the people you interact with. And again, not all. I've just seen some of that stuff, and it made me miss school. It made me miss the educational environment. And that's why I still feel like, till this day, as much as I teach, I'm like, it still feels real. It still feels genuine. As where there's this like fake shit that's happening
exactly
in studios.
Kind of like, probably it creates this false image of what it really is for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, is this really what it is? Is this what the industry really is? Maybe that's like an experience from certain people, but it's not really the whole spectrum of reality, I guess. It's just their experience, but that's what I like from you a lot. You keep it real, you stay pure, you stay true to yourself, and beyond like the level of the quality of your work. That's what I like a lot from people like you, that you kind of manage to share your mind around. Like, I was there in 2019 in the first Lightbox. You were demoing some interior scene, I think, and I don't know, just simple stuff like the even the basic things that you might already know, but like putting those pieces together in a way that, look guys, this is how it's done. Look, this lasso tool, now we create a new layer, now you go to levels, and voila, that's it. And everybody was like, wow, that's And truly, man, these demos are just so enlightening. And I like a lot that you keep these vibes at I don't know, like you said before, something about like making art sound like something superior, like something really hard to achieve, like it definitely looks like that, but it's just a succession of steps, right, that you must follow and find your voice and stuff. So I really appreciate that.
It's probably my personality too, because if I try to make art sound sophisticated and cool, I don't think I can pull it off. People will be like, this guy sounds like he's full of shit. So I'm like, oh yeah. That's why I'm just like, step 1, turn on this layer. Step 2, paint it. Use the paint bucket. But other people can pull it off, man. They can sell you toilet paper and you feel really good about spending $100 on it. And I'm like, that's a skill set, dude, that I don't have. But I'll just admire it from afar.
It's like something you can feel in a way, from the other person.
Thank you.
It's like you can. I don't know how to explain it. Really, it's like simply felt in a way, you know.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I really appreciate it.
And that probably helps like with teaching as well, because I mean, if you're a student and you're approaching someone like with your resume, like to teach them, you know, you must. I mean, you learned from Scott Robertson, right? You must know the feeling of approaching someone like who's bigger than life, and it's like, oh my god, really pay attention. And then if the guy, it's chill, you know, like I'm sure dumb students feel the same way, you know, when you look at his artwork and it's awesome as hell, and then like he sits down and talks like a regular human being, and then you're like, oh,
yeah, you're like, this is a normal guy. Yeah, you're like, yeah. It's
awesome. It's sometimes weird when like people like call me sir sometimes, and I'm still in my 20s. It's like,
dude,
I don't want to be called that.
All the respect,
bro. Dude, have you been called Mr. Lay, or like, you know, like your last name? Like I've been called Mr. Park several times. I'm like, no, just call me John or JP, or just call me what's up, dude? Like anything but Mr. Park, man.
Yeah, someone will call me like Teacher Dom or something, but it's just, I don't know.
It's so like formal. It's
weird.
It's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, like going back to what you're saying about, you know, teaching and forming a genuine connection, that's kind of how I felt about like teaching students as well. Like being able to share my knowledge to some capacity with them and like have them do their own thing with it is like honestly one of the best feelings ever. And yeah, I mean that's why like I was so excited to like join Brainstorm with you guys, so I could like be able to teach your students and give back some way.
Congrats again on that.
I was excited that you even said yes, dude. I was like, I think this guy's busy, or I was like, I don't know, man. He's there's a good chance he's gonna say no, and I always have that insecurity. I'm like, oh man, but I've been looking at your work for years, and I'm just like, this guy has this, I don't know, kind of beautiful watercolor style, you know, and for me, I'm a huge fan of Zabukvik. Do you know him?
Oh yeah.
I was just cool. Like, you figured out how to do the Photoshop version. What the hell, dude? This is awesome.
I mean, I feel the same way about you, man. Like I've been seeing your work since like 2014 or 15. So, yeah, it's been a while. I've just been like in the corner somewhere just studying your art.
Oh no, man! I'm like the diluted, really really bad version of like Jamie Jones or something. Like I just look at his work. I'm like, how did Jamie do that thing again? I'm like, oh yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And then Craig,
what's that? Ever gonna make it social media?
Jamie's he pops in here and there. He's a very you know, busy individual. You know, family man. You know, but he's one of those guys who's freaking awesome. He's like, when you meet him in the flesh, like you understand his paintings. You're like, dude, this guy's legit. Like this guy, like I don't know why, but I feel like he's like hanging out with him. I'm like in a time capsule because he feels like an old school like classical artist, you know. So one time I went to his house and we were hanging out, and he was like, we're gonna play some games, you know. He's like, what kind of games do you like? And in my head I'm thinking like fucking Xbox, maybe I don't know, first person shooters. Like I like Counter-Strike. Do you like Counter-Strike? And he was like, well, I was thinking, you know, maybe we can play some Scrabble. And I was like, I don't think I've seen that on Steam. And he meant the board game, dude. And I was like, I don't think I'm capable of hanging out with you, man. You're like several notches up above my intelligence level, dude. Scrabble? My vocabulary is bad. I got like straight C's and D's in literature. I was like, okay. But he's an awesome guy. He's really cool, and you know, again, he was like, yeah, you want some alcohol? And I'm like, yeah, this guy likes to get smashed. No, we drank, you know, like what's it called? A Cabernet, like, you know, wine. And I'm like, I don't drink wine. This is awesome. I was like, okay, I'm in. But he's one of those guys where, like, you can really see his sensibility, um, his personality through the art, because when you're hanging out with him, he's very careful about kind of how he talks, his tone, and he's very well composed, obviously really well mannered, super nice guy. And he's a very analytical person, right? And just being around him made me understand his art from like a personality standpoint. Because I think before looking at his paintings, like we all do, I'm like, what brush did he use? He probably used this brush, or it looks like he used this effect. And
Yeah.
um, when I got to hang out with him, I was like, oh, dude, you're just being you. It's self-expression. That's something that's you can't forge that. I mean, you can't copy that. You have to be him in order for that to come through the artwork. And I know it sounds really artsy, but it made me really appreciate his art on a whole new level, and getting to know him, I love his art even more. And it's like a really interesting personality documentation. I can start to see his personality in the artwork and stuff. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool.
is that kind of question, that many people run into, like, oh, there must be something, there must be a formula to follow to be like, to paint like that guy, or to be like him, or to, like, what's the steps needed to take? And as you said, it's usually something really personal, like you said, you have to be him to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I find that kind of sad when I think about it sometimes. It's like, why do people want to constantly be like other people? Why don't they want to explore like their own voice, right? So
I have a really good theory on that, because I fell into that trap, and I still feel like I am. Mainly, I think it's might just due to like wanting to aspire to be like someone,
yeah, like I understand that you can have references, you can have idols and stuff, right? But some
And
people going down that path of like, I want to imitate this guy, I want to be a copy of
yeah.
this guy, right?
So I kind of fell into that mode. There's like two people that I always try to imitate, and I do it very unsuccessfully. One is Jamie Jones, and the other is Craig Mullins. I think I try to imitate. I'm sure you do too, right? Like, what brush did
Yeah.
Craig Mullins use? Everything. He even used like dirt from his fingers to paint it. I don't know how he scanned it and he put it in there somehow. Um, but
Holy
like
shit.
through imitation, I you start to understand the process and the steps that are needed in order to even achieve that, right? So obviously, yeah, like in the beginning phases, I was like, yeah, I want to paint like Jamie, and people will be like, hey, just be yourself, have your own voice. But and for me, I was like, no, 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 I'm not good enough to have my own voice. I'm just gonna be a copycat, and I want to be as good as possible to understand. And I think through that process, it made me more of a confident painter. It made me understand the process in order for me to start experimenting and doing things on my own. If that makes sense, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
you're doing something so much with repetition, you understand it. It just becomes like secondhand nature, and therefore, after you understand it, you understand the process. You're able to start experiment with it, and really try things out that's really you, right? I feel like that would be hard to do in the beginning. I know some people
Yeah.
are successful with that, but for me personally, I felt like I needed to go through the process of imitation and copying in order to find my own voice, in order to understand how to cultivate a strong artistic voice, and it made me really appreciate other artists and their forms, of how they approach things. And I tried trying to do that with Craig Mullins. Like, Craig Mullins is going to be my lifelong goal. I'm just going to try to paint and imitate his stuff. Um, and I got to meet Craig in person, and Craig Mullins to me is he's a programmer. I feel like mentally he's a software engineer who breaks things down. He has such an analytical mindset, and I feel like he's always experimenting. He's never satisfied with a process, because once he figures out a process, to him, he's already mastered it. You know what I mean? He's like, well, I already know A plus B equals AB. So he's like, I don't want to do that again. I'm going to try something else. 1 plus blah, blah, blah equals this. And so he's always testing the boundaries. And that's why his artwork looks kind of insane. You know, it's like crazy because he's like experimenting. And like, for me, I'm like, dude, you're like a scientist, dude. Like, but you're just doing it with Photoshop, and you're like breaking the rules, and you're, you know, getting people to guess like what brush you use, but you might have used some weird brush. I don't know, like a brush with his face on it, and he can make it look good. But it makes me really appreciate how far he's taken his own process, and you know, in hindsight, makes me really reflect on like, well, what could I do? But again, it always, for me, it started with imitation. It started with copying, you know. And I'm sure, you know, some people are in the same boat, and other people are kind of more maybe not dependent on that, and I really appreciate that. You should raise your hand now.
I was in the same boat too. Like, imitation helped me a lot before I actually started experimenting more with my own stuff.
Yeah. For me, it was also Scott Robertson. You know, like his book saved my life from a boring life that I would have.
Oh yeah,
if I hadn't read them. So for like maybe three years was just like Scott Robertson stuff all day long. Like the 2 books, I read them like multiple times and copied every single drawing from them. And then like, oh, there's other arts as well. Let me jump on this Instagram thing and try to figure this out.
I gotta say, Scott's book, so he has 2 books, right? How to Draw and How to Render. Those 2 books, I might be exaggerating, but they're literally 2 full semesters worth of information at Art Center, if not more. And each semester at Art Center is about $27,000. So it's like $50,000+ of information that he like consolidated and packaged into a book for people to just pick up, you know. And that's the thing I love about what Scott does as an educator. He doesn't believe in like, you know, hey, in order for you to learn the skill set, why don't you go into like $300,000 worth of debt, you know, and you go get an art job and, you know, spend the next 20 years paying it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that to me is like so inspiring. Like, that's why, like you said, like, you know, Andre, like you said, like Scott saved your life. I think Scott saved so many people's like bank accounts from going into debt, provided quality education, and honestly inspired a lot of artists to become teachers, and you know, kind of go down that same path of you know, giving back to the community. And I
remember someone from FZD telling me that, dude, get this book and make every page a lesson, because it really is. It's like a class. Like, this book is everything. so I did it. And it was insane, awesome, dude. Man. Like it was insane. And I can definitely relate to the feeling of like getting started, and you know, I can see how the sense of design comes a little after you learn the technical basics and stuff. It's almost like, I don't know, driving a car, for instance. Like, you know, you learn the basics, and then you can start trying to become like a pilot or drifting or whatever, you know, or like a soccer player. I don't know, you learn the basics and then you start to do like cool stuff with it. In my experience, that's how it went for me. Like, I would be so deep into the technical level of the, you know, how to paint, you know, the techniques of rendering and all that stuff, that I was not that worried about the design of my stuff. You know, that came a little afterwards. Also the storytelling elements, you know, like I would be more interested in that. Once you control, I'm not saying like I'm you know, the best in the world at painting and stuff, but I'm just saying, like, when you have this sense of like, okay, I think I got this now I can start kind of thinking of something to make this more interesting and stuff. And there comes the design and the storytelling and all that stuff that kind of mixes everything together and makes it look like your stuff. Like, I can see how this is done by you, you know, like I see you painted this, right? Like, it's your style. But it's so interesting how that's something that everything, everybody sees that from the outside, but you're never being able to tell that yourself. Like, what's my style? What do you mean? And
Right.
it's like, yeah, everybody sees your art and says, yeah, it was obvious it was you, man. But you're like, why is that? I don't know how you guys identify my work. I find that kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I what's interesting? I'll never admit that that's my style. I'll say, no, that credit goes to Jamie Jones, Richard Schmid, and John Berkey. Like those are the guys that I emulated the most. And obviously I'm trying to do the Craig Mullins thing, but still failing. But that's for me is that I feel like those are the core ingredients. Like it's like I borrowed those ingredients and did my own fusion. That's why I'll never truly feel like, oh, this is my style, and I don't want it to be my style. I don't want it to be defined as like, oh, this is like the John Park style. It's like, no, this is if you break down the ingredients, you'll see that it's adapted and taken from Zorn or Sargent or some of the more modern guys like Craig Mullins or Jamie Jones or even like painters from the 70s like John Berkey or Sid Mead. Like just got to give credit where credit's due. And I feel like there's more depth. There's more depth to that conversation that you're like, because then when what I love to do is I love having conversations with Jamie, and I'll go like, like he looks at Richard Schmidt's work and as do I, and he looks at Sargent and Zorn, and I feel like it almost feels like, hey, we both went to the same like kung fu temple, but you got different things out of it, so there might be a similar fighting style, but like his emphasis might be more on this, and like I'm like, oh, but I took this, but you could still see the DNA in that, right? And that's what I love. That's why I like. Yeah, that's why I feel like I never. It just sounds weird to say like, yeah, it's my style. It's like, no, it's not. It's you got to recognize where the core of your inspiration came from, and what did you do to kind of resonate with it, but what did you to creatively come up with your own thing, and that's the part that's really neat.
Yeah, I've heard like style is like a succession of like safe plagiarizing steps you've made in your journey. Like constantly continuing, repeating those things you've learned, putting them into the next painting. And yeah, it's like the way I see it is like a big picture of lots of references and inspiration sources and all that stuff. Which leads me to my question for you is like, what inspires you, man, to come up with all those personal studies and personal paintings you do? Because I don't know. Like besides the technical stuff that you're mentioning from other artists that inspire you, like I don't know. I was wondering, like, do you just take a look at some Pinterest boards, or you look around? I don't know, see an interesting landscape.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of studies, and I don't claim them to be my own creative, image or design. But I think through the study, like I feel like I'm expanding my visual vocabulary, and I'm sure you guys all know this. Like it helps to do that. I think what inspires me to try to be prolific and do it every day is I don't know, like there's something I get like I get this energy and satisfaction out of doing my own personal art, even if it's like a study or something. Because I feel like at the end of the day, like I'm investing in myself. I'm investing in my own growth and becoming a better artist. Even though logically I might be like, hey, or financially I can be like, oh, I can spend this time working on something. But I don't think I get as much nutrition and happiness other than really doing these studies. And there are times, I'm not gonna lie, there's times when I don't want to do these studies. I don't want to do personal work, but I try to force myself, like at least try to paint something every single day, for at least an hour, whether it's in the morning, lunchtime, or at nighttime, before I go to bed. Try to do something at least every single day, because that it's for yourself. and you'll get something out of it. And I don't always share everything. I have like a folder full of crappy stuff, but I look back and I'm like, man, like I feel like when I look back, I'm like, wow, I feel like I learned something really interesting there. I felt like I learned how to resolve the shape better. I felt like I know how to like articulate this texture or represent a tree, you know, this really interesting tree. I can maybe use this brush next time. And so like those are the things that I get really inspired and motivated by to do these studies, you know. Other than like, you know, usual social media stuff where like, yeah, I do it for the likes, you know, or whatever. Yeah. But it's like I really do it because I find it you know, it's very fruitful. It's like it's very you know, it's really for me at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, but I think you guys inspired a lot of people to come up with this lunch break sketches, you know, kind of thing. Like you guys went on a frenzy like many times. I remember you, Jonathan Berube, I don't know, many people that follow online, you know.
All those guys.
Lunch break sketch.
We had a question like about your
awesome
efficiency too, like how you're able to just pump them out in like a day.
I know someone was like, do you have these in the backlog and you're just like, you know, just releasing them and saying you're doing this? Sometimes no. I mean, you know, to be honest, like there's times when you know, we'll start a painting in the morning and we'll finish at lunchtime, you know. But what's really cool is like when you're doing these lunch paintings, and not that I'm trying to time myself, but I know like how much time we're allowed to do these lunch paintings for. You start to look at your reference library and you're like, yeah, that looks like something I could do in an hour. And then I'm looking at like a crowd scene. I'm like, that's gonna take a whole freaking day, dude. No thanks. Like, just kind of like poured it over. And then there's just things that are a lot easier. I'm like, yeah, I'll paint a cloud with a reflective water, and like that's like super easy. Just copy and paste and do the transform flip, you know, so you get the reflection. So those things are quick tricks. But yeah, I think in terms of you know, kind of the efficiency part, Dom, like I felt like through those lunch paintings that we did, it felt like a rat race because we're all like, okay, ready? You guys ready? We're all looking at each other like, hey man, you got your reference ready, bro? Like, are you no cheating? And we're like, go! We're all painting, and I find out like, you know, like me and Nick Gindro, we started like the day before or something. We're just painting, and we'll like look over and like, hey, what? It's only been 5 minutes. How did you block all that out? We're like, oh, I'm just working really fast, man. Keep up. It became like this.
But you guys had like a timer, right?
Like an unhealthy competition, dude. It really did. But it pushed us, man. And that was the crazy thing. It like pushed us to get faster, to get better, to like scale down the brushes. My tool presets look like a mess. Before it was even worse, but like I was like, oh, these are the 3 brushes I'm going to use to do everything. And it's interesting because through that process, I felt like my decision making was a lot more it was a lot more adamant. It was more like it was more decisive. It was just like, this is what I'm going to use. I have no time to think, no time to like mess around. Let's just go, right? And it's due to that pressure. It's due to the fact that like you had Jonathan Berube, Jonathan Bach, Aton, Nick Ginger. Aton was obviously like, you know, in another studio, but we're all like on Facebook talking, and you know, Seifel, and we have all these guys like we're just like getting down and like ready and go, you know, and even Finney and McManus and stuff, and he would do all these crazy paintings. But it was such a great group of friends helping each other to grow. It was such a healthy competition, and you know, we always wanted to outdo each other, but it was done with such a pure intention. It was done with like the idea of like, you know, oh man, we got better, we got faster. Or it's like, oh, and we would compliment each other, be like, dude, you won today, man. That painting's good, you bastard. And you know, and me and Nick were the worst. We would go home and I would do another one, and I would message it to him like, hey Nick, I'm gonna drop this tonight, dude. You behind? Like, what's up, bro? And he's just like, you fucker. What are you doing? and he would do one, but then he would do another one, and I'm just like, oh my god, you're driving me nuts. And it got so deep and so toxic, where like it toxic in a good way, where we were focusing more on these speed paintings than actual work. And that's when I was back. It was like you were thinking about doing these lunch paintings and trying to one up each other, and I was like, dude, this shit's not good, man. We're gonna get fired. Yeah, but it was good.
I'll just turn these into the art director. Just turn the lunch paintings.
Dude, our production designers, our art directors, yeah, they were kind of like, they would watch us like paint, and they're like, yeah, look at our guys, they're working really hard. They came over and they're like, this has nothing to do with the project, guys. What the hell are you doing? And I'm like, oh shit.
These guys sound like they had their own fight club or something.
Dude, it was bad, but it was awesome.
It was like, I mean, by posting it, you kind of made that little group, that inspiring community, right, even larger. Like it got to many people like me, for instance, of course, because we saw that and we were like, okay,
oh, man,
lunch,
that's cool.
Lunch break sketch. Then
saw like everyone doing castles, like at a certain point. I was like, where are these castles coming from?
Why is everyone painting castles?
Yeah, I checked on Facebook. I was like, oh shoot, John's doing like castles with like the crew and stuff. Like that's dope.
Oh man, yeah. Someone was like, yeah, I think someone asked, was like, hey, if you started painting cactuses, will everyone start painting cactuses? I was like, no, man. I think I started painting castles because I saw Nick painting castles, and I was like, bastard, that's a good castle. Like, how did you do that? So I did my first castle, and it looked like it was like made out of Play-Doh, dude. Like worse textures, like there's no form, and like I was just like, dude, I suck at this. I got to do more. And so we just kept on going at it, and Nick was already on to doing like some Game of Thrones, like 300 epic scenes. I'm like, I give up. I can't do that. I'm gonna do more castles.
So you guys
he's
were
a beast.
You guys were choosing like a theme or something. Like you were saying,
what's
okay, today we're doing castles, guys. So yeah, or you were freely choosing any reference you wanted. Or
in the beginning, we were pretty open. We did start to narrow down like the themes. We were like, okay, we're gonna do APCs, like those armored patrol vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
We did those for a long time. I was like, man, I think I probably did like 10 of those at some point. But what's interesting, Dom? Like you mentioned, like efficiency. I think by the third or fourth time I painted the same, like the APC, in my head I was like, oh, I know how to paint. It's like, I know how to paint one for tomorrow. I think I can do it faster.
Just from like scratch or like off the rip.
Yeah, and because you're so used to it, you're like, oh, I remember the steps. And then Nick will be like, hey, let's paint a forest. And I'm like, fuck off, man. I don't know how to do a forest. Stop. I was like, I just got good at painting APCs, man. I was like, you can't do that. And then you get good at painting forests, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm good at painting trees. And then someone else like Jonathan Bach will suggest like let's do Berkey, and I'm like, God. Like I can't, dude. I just got good at painting trees, or used to it, right? I'm like, damn it. But that's what's really great about rinse and repeating is you get very familiar with the subject matter, and so you understand the tools, you understand like what you're using in Photoshop, but you get really comfortable with the subject matter, and the tools and the subject matter starts to solidify a really good process, right? Like you understand like what a good working formula is for you. And I feel like at that point you reach this creative high. You're like, I know what to do. I know what I'm gonna do for the next one, And I feel like that was like the key to key success to all of those lunch paintings, was like we kept on unlocking methods and ways on how we would go about painting certain subject matters, because we've done it repeatedly, and we started to forge a really good process that all worked for worked for ourselves, and until this day I still remember those exact steps. Like I still know how to paint an APC. I still know how to paint these things because it got burned into like the side of my head, and I feel like I think that's why I still keep up with those I try to at least keep up with those daily paintings, Adrian,
I remember even
So-
some of you were like, for instance, when I saw Jonathan Ruby sharing one of those Lumbrick sketches, right? He was mentioning how it was about a mech or something like that, something sci-fi hard surface thing. And I remember he was mentioning some 3D stuff in the process. Like, sorry guys, I ran out of time and I had to speed up the rendering process for something. And I did this to fix it, in the end. And I was like, holy shit, they put 3D in that stuff as well. Like, within that time constraint because you had a time constraint, right? What was it, like 30 minutes, 1 hour, or I don't know.
It's like an hour.
But
and if we cheat, it's like an hour
great.
5, hour 20.
That's
Sometimes
great
it became like 3 hours, and we're like, shoot, we're gonna get fired for this.
I mean, for the decision making thing that must be great, because I usually get lost, especially at the end, where I'm kind of going over like the little detailed changes, like like this or like this, I'm not sure, and then you come up with a third one, a third variation. You're like, oh, now it's even harder to decide, So having like that time constraint, I guess it's really healthy for helping you to learn how to decide more accurately.
Yeah. I think it makes you just make a choice faster, right? And
That's it.
It's like, it might not be the right choice, but it doesn't matter. It's just, you're kind of going in with full conviction. You're like, it's going to be red. It's like, even though I'm going to hate it, it's going to be red and it's going to be this shape. And so you go in with that sentiment, and it turns out okay. Cause you're like, you make it work and you figured it out. But the really cool thing is that when we started repeating the themes, and I remember like there was maybe a couple times where I redid the painting, like I redid the same painting that I did.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cool part. I'm usually not excited about that stuff until I did it, and I was like, holy crap! What I learned was there's some things that I would kind of make more efficient. Like I wouldn't spend so much time in this area because it didn't pay off. So the background, I'll just do like 2 strokes. I'm like 1, 2. As with before, I probably spent like 20 minutes trying to make it all pretty and like give it lost edges. I'm like, no, dude, just like 1, 2. It doesn't matter because the focal point's on this one thing, right? This APC or this tree or whatever. And it made the painting better, but it made the painting a lot faster, and it made it look intentional. That was the thing. I don't think I would have came across that conclusion if I didn't do the same painting twice. And so I started going back and I started redoing a lot of the same paintings, at least the ones that I thought were unsuccessful. I started doing them again. Sometimes they turn out better, and sometimes they kind of look like a weird version of it, like a weird mutated version of it. But my decision making was so much more efficient. And that was the thing. I was like, because I remembered where I struggled. Like when you paint, sometimes you're painting and you're like, God, dude, this like foreground doesn't look great. I don't know what brush I'm using, but it just looks blobby. But you remember what that foreground looks like. You remember the shapes. You remember the colors and values and the textures that you want out of it. So instantly, I'm able to kind of get the right brush and just get all those right action steps, like boom, 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 1, 2, 3. And it looks better. It looks effortless because it was done with, I don't know, confidence. It was done with a certain boldness, or it was done with in a certain amount of time, and
you kept in mind the science behind it, like ignoring the live feed, just do the steps and then zoom out and look, and
exactly.
Then it works. Whereas if you get discouraged by each brushstroke you make, it's like, nah, this is not working, let me try.
And or the worst is too,
you don't wait long enough. Yeah.
And the other thing too, Adrian, is like I would sometimes have, and I do this all the time, and I'm sure you guys do too, like you have like your artist inspiration. Like I'll have Jamie Jones's painting up. Meanwhile, it's such great inspiration, but it also distracted me, and it made me kind of deviate away from trying to finish my own painting, because I started trying to look at like, I was like, how is he painting that cloud? What brush did he use? And I'm like, now I'm just not focusing on doing the study or doing my own painting, focusing on trying to like analyze someone else's work, and then like it's spending all that time, and it can be confusing, it can be frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it can just you'll end up with something that's unfinished, right? And you're just like, fuck it, just like throw it away or put it in like your unfinished folder,
Yeah.
So I think figure drawing teacher told me something like that like a couple years ago, where she said, "Look at the figure, not your drawing." Because if you focus on your drawing and like you look up back and forth, you're not going to get like the full gesture. So you should be like looking at the figure and then like kind of feeling the gesture out, and then yeah.
I
Wow,
love
that's
those
interesting.
man.
Without looking
Dude,
at the drawing, you just look at the reference. Damn.
When you first heard that saying, though, it sounds cool, but does it make sense to you?
That's the thing. Yeah, I like putting it to practice. I think it's a little like weird for me at first, but then yeah, like after figuring it out, it like starts to make sense, and like my confidence has gone better like through the lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's
I
the same
remember-
thing with like looking at a reference and looking at reference
Yeah.
first and like picking it apart and then going back to your painting.
Yeah.
So
Even painting it like upside down. I remember back in high school, they made us like paint with the reference upside down, so we don't focus on either. If
That's interesting.
That's a
So
face.
you're like just focusing
that's
on
a
the
hand.
shape.
That's a palm tree. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Just the
that's pretty
shapes.
cool.
You paint what you see, not what you think you see.
Oh wow.
Especially in the beginning.
It sounds so like philosophical. I like
It does.
I love eventually like dude, as we like I caught myself doing this all the time, like I'm like so zen. I'm like, the way you draw is the way you see, and the way you see is the way you draw. And I'm like, what the fuck am I saying right now? What am I saying? By the way, that saying was adopted by my old teacher at Art Center. My former he was the late and great Norm Sherman. He used to say these like super zen, like dope sayings. He's like, John, you gotta the way you draw is the way you see, and the way you see is the way you draw. And I was like, that sounds really cool, but I have no effing idea what you mean right now. I'm like, what does that mean? It sounds like a cool statement. But what's really interesting is like years later, I'm like, damn, that is so true, and it's dope. And
I can relate
like
to
I
that
catch
so
myself
much,
saying
dude.
that to my I catch myself saying that to my students. I'm like, the way you see, the way you draw is the way you see, and the way you see is the way you draw. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, so now give me 20 paintings. That's the end of class, guys. Bye.
It's probably young people tend to be like more superficial in the understanding of these things, because I remember everybody in the class were like, this guy's crazy, like this teacher's like, he thinks he's a philosopher or something,
Dude, yeah.
And then later on, as you said, later in life, you kind of look back and you're like, oh man, I wish I could have understood that at the time,
Yeah.
because
It's
you
always like
do understand
hindsight.
it
You're
now.
like,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. You know what's interesting though? I have to say, I did this once, and I didn't do it to troll my students, but I did it once where I was teaching it was a vehicle mech drawing class, and at the time I was using the brush pen, the Japanese brush pen. I don't know if this is the one, but it's by Pilot. But I remember someone was asking me like, "Oh, what tool do you use?" And I just remember thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna let them know that this is the secret brush. This is, if you don't have this, you can never draw this good. And I was like, you guys, you have to go down to Japantown and you have to get this one brush and only this one brush. You can never achieve this level without this one pen. And they're just like, what? And I was like, and then you need to get this paper. This paper mixed with this brush is the only way you get these super nice lines. But it's fucked up, dude. It's like total bullshit. But
Japan
made them
just got like a
believe-
massive increase in like tourism and stuff.
I know, but I ordered it from Amazon. But like, I remember there was this sense of belief, right? They're like, "Oh shit! If I get that tool, I'll draw good." And maybe that was a superficial thing, like you were saying, Adrian. Like that, like for them to believe
No
that
joke.
it's this one thing.
No
Right?
joke, dude. I saw James Pake doing like a demo of like a plane or something. He was at the airport. He was painting that using a Pentel brush pen and some other ballpoint pen. And I bought that on purpose. I said, I want that specific thing he has,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I can definitely relate to that. It's almost the same as like, what brushes do you use? I want that pack. So it's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing.
you almost have to kind of do that so it gets people to believe in your steps. It's like, oh yeah, I do need to use that brush, because I think the slight disconnect, even though it's a true saying, is like, oh, it's not the tools, it's you, right? It's your foundation. Yeah, that's true, but it just doesn't sound as cool, you know? When you're when you're a student, like you don't want to believe that is the way to get good. You're like, no, screw that. I want to know the secret. And you're like, all right, you want to know the secret, man? I'm using this one brush right here. Or I'm telling, without this brush, you can't do this painting, man. And they're just like, but that's an introduction. It's an introduction to get them to do the homework assignment, right? Get them to understand, like, oh, it is actually your ability to draw. It's your ability to know good perspective or whatever. But yeah, it's fun.
You actually as a trailer, the brush from John.
Yeah.
He stole all your pens.
Gotta use his brush.
Yeah, actually, it's only this one that I have here.
It's only this one. But I do promote the art Wacom pen. That is the one that I will say. And I'm not sponsored by them, like, but this is the one that will save your life. It's the one that has like the built-in like rotation on it, where it's like it will change like the cursor. It'll like rotate it. So that's one I was like, okay, yeah, that actually legitimately will help you paint more efficiently. So you don't have to like rotate it. Yeah. But
do you use that setting a lot?
Yeah.
I thought it was at the beginning. I thought it was kind of annoying, because I was like, "Oh man, it tilted again." Shit. So,
oh really? Yeah. I have it. I have it on like, so like I'll. It's not the pen tilt. It's a rotation. So like as I'm like rotating.
Oh, I see.
Turning,
I see. Okay.
It turns a brush.
Okay.
It's a rotates
like
brush.
On the new models or something. I'm not sure if the.
So,
that's a specific pen. They sold separately.
Oh
yeah, I don't know why they do
talking.
that. I feel like it's bullshit. They should, like, because I was honestly
money reasons. That's why.
It's only. But that's the thing. I was like, okay, it's $99.
Oh wow!
And the original pen is like $79. I'm like, so you're saying for $20, I paid to get this extra chip in there? Like, there's got to be another feature. And I'm like, why don't they make it standard? Because it's such a good feature, man. I'm like, dude, Wacom, you greedy bastards.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing, dude.
What's that?
Crazy.
I didn't even know it was a thing, to be honest. I just thought it came with the newer versions of the tablets,
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe the new ones do, but I have a lot of the old default brushes. It's hilarious because like I still have it in this like plastic packet, and I throw it away because you could tell like this one is thicker. The tip.
Yeah. It's like more.
I feel like I'm doing like makeup
blobby
tutorial. Like you could see what I'm doing. But yeah, it's like all my brushes most of my brushes have a rotation feature on them. Yeah.
That's interesting. Then you don't have to be constantly like, right click.
Yeah, you don't have to
change
rotate
the rotate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I use the tilt a lot as a cheat for that, because it's too cheap to buy the rotating pen. So I was like, yeah, I'll just twist my arm around the tablet.
You're like, here, I need to get that right angle.
Yeah. So something I noticed.
Think the tool thing. Go ahead, Adrian. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, when using a Cintiq, for instance, I noticed I tended to use more the rotation tool in Photoshop a lot more. For some reason, I don't know. Even though it sounds like it should be the other way around, because it's a screen. You can rotate yourself. You can just, adapt a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, with an Intuos is kind of different because it's like just laying flat on the table, but I don't know. It's weird, how this difference between like painting on a screen and painting on on your desk, something that's here. It makes such a difference,
Look at all these rich boys with Cintiq's dom.
An upgrade. Like I'm still using like this Dino tablet for all my paintings.
Dude, Dom, that's legit. I didn't even know they make that. What is that?
It's the Wacom bamboo capture.
Dude, bro, that's awesome.
It still works. I've had this for like 10 years now, like 15 years.
See, you're like the core like example of like it's not the tools that make good art. It's you, right?
Yeah.
Damn, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this pen is pretty like cheap too. It doesn't even have like dials or anything. It's
But it has
empty
buttons,
inside.
right? It's got
Yeah. It's
oh,
just
that's
like two buttons, but that's it.
Damn, dude. Like when you see
You're
people
cheating, man.
paint,
You have
like
buttons on your pen.
when you see people painting like that, you never imagine like what they could be using, right? And then they make the
definitely not.
big reveal, like, "Oh, I used a mouse,"
Yeah.
or some crazy.
That's
shit.
Craig Mullins.
Yeah, exactly.
I used the mouse. And I was like, what the? He's awesome, man. Like I was lucky enough to go visit him. When my wife and I went to Hawaii. I just like cold emailed him. I was like, hey Craig, I'm gonna come to Hawaii. I'd love to get a chance to visit. I'm gonna be on your island. And then he messaged, man, like the week that we were there. He was like, yeah, why don't you come on by? And I was like, oh my god, dude, I'm gonna meet the Grand Master, dude. It was, like when you meet your heroes, there's it can either be like amazing or disappointing. I feel like I got lucky because I met Scott Robertson. He was amazing. And with Craig, I was like, please don't be an ass. Like, please be awesome. Please be awesome. He was like everything that I had in my head plus more. Like, he lives on this like beautiful hilltop in Hawaii, overlooks the water.
Wow.
And we parked, and I was like, I don't know if I should go knock on his door. Like, he has like all these banana trees. He came out of his banana tree like trimming, and he had like canvas in his hand. He's like, oh hey, you made it. And I was like, dude, it's the Grand Master.
Holy shit! What an
Like,
appearance!
Dude, I was like, whoa. And he's like, I'm sorry, I was just gardening. He's like, yeah, why don't you come on by? I was like, oh crap, dude, this is dope. And came into his office, and I was like, dude, I'm here, I'm at the Master's like art room, dude. And he's badass, man. He has this like huge tablet. I don't even know if they make those anymore. They're like 30 inches big. This massive. And then he because his painting is so crazy. Was that?
Not a screen, right? It's like
not a screen, yeah, tablet.
That big?
Yeah, it's like
holy
an
shit.
Intuos 3, Intuos 2, Intuos 3. And it's like this
XL
large
or something.
yeah, like XXL.
Mm-hmm.
And he paints with the normal monitor, but he has a big TV that he paints. And I was like, oh, cool, Craig. I just like made a passing comment. I'm like, oh, cool. You watch TV while you're working? He's like, no, why would I do that? I use it to paint. And I'm like, oh. It was like a 50 to 60 inch TV. I was like, dude. And then I was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to fucking buy a TV and use that as my monitor. It's the only way to get as good as Craig Mullins, because he's literally looking at his paintings like full size. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I was going to say.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, no wonder he goes in. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to just paint everything.
Then you never have to zoom in again.
Yeah, exactly, right? He doesn't have to zoom in. He just kind of like
it's always zoomed in.
Just one of these.
Yeah,
it's the manual zoom. No, but he's one of those like super inspiring individuals. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen him at like the Lightbox shows and like the talks and stuff. But being there, like hanging out with him and talking about art, he is as real as you can imagine. Like, he's like his philosophy on art is so freaking incredible. And I don't know, it's just like, I remember asking him a silly question. I was like, oh, what inspires you, Craig? It's just like one of those, I asked him like what brush you use and what inspires you. So with the brushes thing, he was like, oh, it's just regular brushes, it doesn't matter. He was like, but I asked him, I was like, what inspires you, Craig? And he had this like Hawaiian dresser, and like he like, I don't know if it's in my head, but he like touched it and he grazed it. He was like, this, and I was like, what? This. I was like, that dresser? He's like, no, the texture's life. He's like, if you look at it, there's so much to it. And I was like, holy, that's some Zen shit, dude. I was like, at first I was like, what? You get inspired by your dresser? But I was like, oh, he means like real life, like textures, things that are tangible. And then he started talking about like, he's like, I love gardening because then I get to go out and experience how light hits the blades of grass. And he's like, I imagine what that would look like in a painting, and he was like, and how would I capture that? And I'm like, damn, dude, this is too complex for me. I was like, what brush do you use again? You know?
Did you take up gardening after that?
What's that?
Did you take up gardening after that?
Oh, dude, yeah. Right. I have a brown thumb, not a green thumb. Everything I grow dies, dude. It's like
No, but
it's like it's like a plague at my house.
the
It's like I
power
can make a cactus die, Dom. You know how hard it is to make a
shit.
cactus die?
Dude,
Dude, it's impossible. That's how hard it is.
So my sister was laughing at me because I had one cactus die. You know, we're like, what? Adrian, that's the easiest thing to keep alive, bro. You don't even have to water it. And I'm like, yeah, but I thought
you and I should have to take care of plants.
Like as a plant, you know, I thought that as a plant it was like 1 week, I think. And I'm like, oh my god, it's been a week. This guy's gonna dry. And yeah, the next thing you know, it starts like, you know, bending over. it's gone. So I'm like, yeah. But that's awesome. it's really interesting how this observation thing works. You know, how much you can learn. I remember Shadi Safadi or Eitan Zana talking about this. You know, like, quit taking pictures of that sunset. Just, you know, forget about the phone and just look at the clouds, look at the sky, look at all those colors, because, you know, sunset is like rapidly changing the environment every single second. So yeah, it's like there's so much color variety all around. Like, you look over there, it's one thing. You look over there, it's the complete opposite. So I remember when I started practicing that, especially after I read this book from James Gurney, Color and Light. I was on a trip and I couldn't do anything else. So I read the book and I noticed how I would be constantly looking for the same thing you mentioned from Craig Mullins, like the way the light hits the blades of grass and stuff like that. That was the thing, you know, like constantly focusing on those details. And it kind of, like, when you do that actively, you know, it kind of it tends to stay on your mind more often. So then when you start painting that, it just comes out like, man, like, it's almost like when you apply feedback to an artwork that you've been given feedback on, you know?
Yeah.
Except this time it's like, it's already there. Like, you just have to get it out. You remember those images.
Adrian, were you painting like outdoors, like plein air painting on your laptop?
No.
Or
at home.
We're painting.
So I was outside. I was reading that book, right? Then I came back home like a few days later, and I started to paint stuff, and I noticed how I was already practicing all the knowledge that I got from the book by also learning from observation, you know, just looking around all the environment. Like, anything was inspiring. Anything where the sunlight hit, you know, it was like, damn, that's some nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I need to do that. I think
that's one thing I probably haven't done enough, which is like going out and either with my tablet or iPad, or if I'm brave enough, like actual real painting. I haven't done enough of, and I think that's kind of like, I would say, if I were to tell myself, like, yeah, go out and paint, right? Because the colors are so vibrant, and the textures and stuff that you see, there's no image compression, right? It's not like a crappy low res JPEG.
Yeah,
it's
just desaturated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it changes so much from a camera. Indeed.
Yeah.
I should probably do that more often. I don't paint outside almost never, and all I see around are people doing like plein air paintings and stuff, you know. And I don't know. I was expecting that by getting an iPad, I'll be able to go out and paint more. But here's another example of how the tool does not make you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I'm not doing that. I'm not going out and painting on my iPad. I'm still here.
But I always tell my students that. I'm like, go out and paint. They're like, do you do that? It's like, no, do as I say, not as I do. You know? Oh yeah, go do that. They're like, they come back like, I learned so much. I'm like, nice. Yeah, they actually listen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Andrea, sorry for cutting you off before. Before I said the thing about the Cintiq and the tablet, we were talking about the rotation thing on the
Dude, I
intros.
don't even remember that anymore. I mean, about like going out as well, something that we always talk about here, it's taking care of your health as well, which goes along with like leaving your desk at least once in a while. Do you do anything of that kind? Like, because it seems, looking from a distance, that you work all the time and then get home and I'm gonna paint just to relax, and then like another that I'm gonna do another painting, and like, how do you approach that side of your life?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Like the work-life balance or the art-life balance. I think stepping away from the computer is really, really good. I think I don't know how you guys go about it, but I'm a very regimented person. So I allow myself to kind of work in front of the computer for X amount of time. But like during certain times of the day, like in the morning, um, you know, I have a routine. Like I have, drop my daughter off at school. I walk my dog, around the neighborhood for like about a mile to 2 miles, and then I go to my desk and then I'll work for like a big chunk of the time, and then I stop, around dinner time. I'm like, okay, like no more computer stuff. It's just purely with family. I got my daughter, my newborn, and then after dinner is done, hang out with the family for a little bit, and then I'll come back. Right, except for today. Today's an exception, but I'll usually come back and I'll get back on the computer. But I feel like that for me, that regiment kind of allowed me to have a balance that's worked for me to stay productive, but to not get too burnt out. I think it's easy to kind of overdo it or like work only on the computer, and you can get pretty, I don't know, pretty fatigued and just kind of burn yourself out just doing the same thing. Um, but I don't know. I feel like having a good regiment, like a good like schedule, has been helping me to kind of maintain everything. Maintain a good, healthy, artistic, viewpoint. A really good, like I'm stepping away from the computer, so I'm not like hunched over and like, ruining and stuff. I think I could probably do more of that, stay away from the computer. But yeah, so far it's been good.
That's nice, man. Yeah, it's not easy to kind of come up with that balance, because usually,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking for myself here, but I usually think of yourself as like not enough, like I need to do more. So you almost get to a point where you can't stop, even though you need to, right? And that leads to, we know which kind of problems, and then you have to stop for a long time, and I don't know. Sometimes I find that natural as well, like that's your journey. You have to find that out, like you have to go through all those dark things to find yourself again and stuff like that. But I mean, it's interesting how experience makes you in time. You learn from your own stuff, and it shapes you in a way. So
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, John. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like the thing, like I think when I was younger, like starting out, I was like, yeah, you got to draw for like 15 hours a day, man. Don't eat. You should only eat and sleep and poop art. I was like, no, I don't think that works, man. Not at all. But that's like the energy, right? That's like the hardcore mentality, like go big or go home. But I think kind of where I felt I got better and I improved as an artist, and I honed in on my craft was doing it every single day. And not for 15 hours a day, but painting at least for myself an hour a day. It does not matter. Just 1 hour a day, right?
Mm-hmm. Just builds the habit.
And it doesn't have to be in the morning. What's that?
Just builds the habit. I mean,
it builds habit, and I think that's what it is, right? And if there's anything that I can share with you guys out of this experience, is that it's healthy habits that have longevity, and with that healthy habit, like it there's a compound effect over time, right? So if you do an hour every single day for a whole week, that's 7 hours. You do it for a whole month, that's 28 hours, right? And like Some people will go hardcore, they'll marathon it for a whole week, and then they'll stop painting for 3 months, you know? I'd rather do it every single day for an hour.
Yeah.
And do it consistently for like 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not burnt out, you're learning, you're not bored of it, you're not overdoing it, and again, you're maintaining a good balance, you're maintaining a good ratio of like, hey, I'm working, like I was able to, do a lot of personal art today, I'm gonna step off, or whatever it is. Like if you're doing like studio work, at least you can kind of keep it very consistent, and that's
I think we would change so many things if we just stepped back every once in a while and did the math, like you said. Because most of the time you don't think about that way, like 1 hour a day, 7 hours a week. Okay, that's quite a lot more than if I just, burn out through the whole night and then, losing sleep over the next days and dealing with those kind of consequences, right? Like it's better to keep it calm and keep it steady and consistent. That's what everybody says. Like consistency is key. Well, that's true.
Yeah,
it is. It truly is the way.
You know what's a really good example? My friend Ben Morrow said this. He said this in a podcast or interview. I was like, dude, that saying makes sense. He said, having a good, a good habit or a good artistic schedule, it's like working out, right? He's like, just work out for like an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour, whatever it is. But he says do it every day. But for those who are trying to lose weight, they're doing too many things. They're like starving themselves. They're at the gym for 5 hours. They're watching like some exercise video, and they're trying to compress, months, if not years of time in like the short amount of window because they want to get the result, right?
And
so
then,
what happens?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Right? Or you get hurt. You're like, whoa, like, oh, my arm, or like, oh my God, I hurt myself.
This stuff sucks.
Or you're not seeing the result, and so you get discouraged, and you're like, screw it, I don't want to do this, right? And then you get burnt out because then you're overdoing it, and you're just like, I went through hell. I literally didn't eat. I just drank water. For nothing. As where it's more effective if you just didn't do that. You worked out for an hour a day, 30 minutes an hour a day, but you did it every single day through a course of like X amount of months or years. Your body just gets acclimated to that and it gets stronger, right? I feel like it's the same with art because like your brain is a muscle, and you're constantly exercising that part of your muscle, and you're honing in on those healthy habits. You're getting better at your craft, and it sticks with you, and it doesn't fade away.
Yeah, that was my experience in art school.
Yeah,
school like killed me, man.
Oh man,
all my friends too. They would stay up till 7 a.m. Like, you stayed up till 7 a.m. just like doing that assignment.
Yeah,
and like I had to just shut off early at 12, and they're like, "Yeah, sleepless for the week, man."
Smart, man.
Like, no,
that's smart.
They just look like zombies the next day.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then you burn out. You're like you're not as functional. You're not as sharp, and I don't know. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I get it. I understand that sometimes people have to do it, but it's not a healthy habit, right? It's not that. I think that's what we're trying to say. Is it's not the best. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason,
I guess like having a studio job helps on that, because like they give you the schedule. So like you will work from this time to this time. So, because like when you're a freelance, you want to say yes to everything that appears like in front of you. So you're just like, okay, give me everything. I don't need to sleep. I don't need to eat. Just give me work. And then like you
just
end
turn
up
it to a
dying
machine.
on your yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you are miserable and you don't know why. So
what's like the worst freelance experience you guys had? Like, we don't have to go into specifics, but like just in terms of like, did you guys take on a lot of clients? Was there like a bad experience?
To me, it was more like I didn't read the contract that well, so like ended up being endless revisions.
Oh shit.
So like you read that note, like unless we approve, you don't get paid. So like months into the experience, and then like they're still revising everything, and you remember that you signed the thing. Like, oh, let me read the contract again to see like when this will be over. And
Man.
like that teaches you to like, okay, read everything first carefully, because it's best like if you take more time on that like pre-phase of talking to the producer and making sure that everything's all right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even paying that much, that was the worst part. It was like a shitty contract that was killing me.
They have in like small words like, if this project gets funded, we'll give you $50, and you're like, what?
It's almost like, dude.
Yeah. I didn't have any freelance horror stories, but it was mostly just art school. Like a couple of years ago, I was taking on like 7 classes, which I probably shouldn't have, and then I did get some freelance offers, so I did some freelance on the side, and then some studios were hitting me up to do like art tests. So I was doing art tests with the classes with freelance, and then I was just I was like, what am I doing to myself?
Dude,
So
what happened? Like, did you come out on top, or like what was your result?
I mean, I literally had to start at like 5 a.m. in the morning till maybe 10 p.m. at night, just
Wow,
working all the way,
dude.
just like trying to manage my time as best I could.
Oh,
As a student, like, you don't really know any better.
Yeah.
Until
time
later,
management.
yeah.
That you're just like,
Yeah.
go, man.
Now that's
How about
dedication.
you, Adrian? Any like freelance or like work horror stories?
Look, freelance wise, like working for like legit clients and stuff rather than like personal, those kind of commissions that you get from people that know you and stuff, like, hey, do me a painting for this much or stuff like that. So for once I accepted one of those offers. I was in a kind of like in a bad spot, in motivational, in terms of motivation, I would say. So I saw that as an opportunity for me to kind of, okay, let's get back on track. Like, this could be like a nice way to kind of build a habit again, and yeah, and the guy he didn't pay after all, because what, that much? And I'm like, we already discussed this before. And he's like, yeah, but I thought that was like for like companies and stuff. And I'm like, no, it's work after all. It's the same thing. I've done the same thing I would do for anyone else,
Right.
And yeah, and it was annoying, but it was like an eye opener as well. Like, okay, that will happen sometimes, And yeah, since there was no contract, no nothing, because I know the guy in real life. So I was like, yeah, like, okay, this is cool. Like, this is not something that I would usually do, but I would do it this time because it's good for me in this moment, at this moment. So I took the job. It took me like, I think it was around 2 weeks of back and forth feedback and stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, and then at the end I was like, okay, then it's ready. You send the money whenever you want. And he was like, what? That much? I mean, but you said, and I'm like, I mean, you were the one kind of letting me know beforehand that don't worry about the money. Nah, don't worry about the money. Because I was like, okay, so about the money is, nah, don't worry about that. Got plenty of it. Don't worry about that. Just do the job. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So I did the job and then there was nothing. So yeah, that was after a period of like 7 to 8 weeks of like me kind of going after him, like, hey dude, how about this week? And he's like, yeah, I still don't have enough, man. And I'm like, okay, look, next time you want to work with me, just get the money ready, pay me the money, and I'll do the work, I'll do the job. Otherwise, so this is how these experiences kind of shape you in a way,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not a bad experience, but like payment wise, it took like a few months for me to get paid, and it was not out of any evil intentions or anything. They were just having some problems. But on my side, I had no information about that, so I didn't know. I was like, dude, this big client is not paying. That's insane. It's on the contract. Like, it says this and that, and they're not keeping up with their words. Right. And I was kind of getting scared, like, holy shit. I was thinking of like legal stuff, like, who am I going to reach about this? Where am I going to? And yeah, and they just had some issues, they just contacted me later and said, "Hey, Adrian, we're really sorry. This does not usually happen." And and then I got it. But yeah, I don't know why, but I'm thinking now about, in terms of like your question, what your question is about bad clients and stuff, bad freelance experiences. It's not necessarily a bad experience, but not having a deadline is weird. And it makes me too comfortable. Like, well, they didn't say anything, you know. Almost like think of it the following way. Adrian, do this. Okay. Half of it we need it by next week. The other half for whenever. Literally whenever. And I'm like, okay. So you start thinking of how many other things you can do in the meantime, right?
Right.
And then time starts piling up and this pressure kind of builds up. And you get to this point where it's like, holy shit, I need to get this out of the way. But now I can't because I have so many other things that I put inside at the same time, you know, and you got to take care of this. And look, if they don't offer you like a deadline, then you kind of create one for yourself. This is my advice to anyone running into this kind of stuff, you know, because it sounds cool in the beginning, like no deadline. Oh, that's awesome, you know, but it's not good, you know. It's a sugar coat. It's a sugar coat kind of. It's a total trap. Yeah. So
that's a really good. That's a tricky one, right? Because it sounds so good. You're like, oh yeah, no deadline. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When do you want it? It's like, okay, it's open ended, and then like kind of forget about it, and then it's just lingering, right? It's just this thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's like you know, like a backlog, you know, that you're carrying on your shoulder.
Then you're also living with this thought or this risk of like, what if they call tomorrow and say, hey, we know we said no deadline, but you know, we want to release it by the next week. You go like into beast mode for like obvious reasons. You cannot do anything else but finish that. So you put everything else on pause, and it's messed up, man. Don't just create
no deadline
structure.
Equals like as soon as possible, dude. That's what it means, you know.
Listen,
get it out of the way.
That's why I was so interested in like knowing more about your way of doing things, because you seem like such an organized guy, and just as you mentioned, you know, you do the. Come on, dude. You structure your schedule pretty cool, man.
Dude, well, I think a lot of that comes from making mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you my one freelance horror story. It was like and I swear to God, I'll never do this again, man. It was like it was a point in my life when I just said yes to everything, you know. And I'm sure you guys been there, right? You get the email, they're like, "Hey, John, found your artwork on blah blah blah. Love to work with you. We got this cool project," and I was like, yes. Even though I was busy with stuff, I was working on 4 movies at the same time. Oh. Right. And the thing that I said yes to was it was full time, meaning Monday through Friday.
Okay.
4 movies. That means I had 4 meetings every single day. That means I had to do roughly like 4 paintings a day, right? Yeah. But here's where it got really messed up. Like, this is where my greed of like just saying yes, I was like, oh yeah, dude, yeah, man, another movie, yeah, let's do it. It became physically impossible. You know what
That's what I was gonna say. It sounds like there's not enough physical time available to cover all of that.
I need to like duplicate like 2-3 times to do it. You know what became really effed up was you know, it was the fact that I said yes to stuff, but I started getting like, I was in phone calls from 5 a.m. like what Dom was saying, like from 5 a.m. phone calls all the way to like realistically like 11 p.m. talking with different art directors. And you know what got messed up? I forgot who I was talking to, because working on like, you know, I was like talking about the Egyptian project, and I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I was like, yeah, so you want that temple? And they're like, there's no here. What are you talking? We're doing sci-fi Tokyo, and I'm like, that's right, we are. And I'm like, Gene? And he's like, yes. I was like, yes. No, just making sure. And I was like, holy shit, dude. I have no idea what I'm doing, man. This is not good. So That was the worst. I was just like in and out of phone calls, sending files. Sometimes like I almost would send the incorrect file during like work meetings. I would forget like what project is this again? And I'm like, holy shit, this is so bad. So the moral of the story is only do what you can handle, but do it in a healthy way. I got way too greedy, man. I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and that, like that sound, and I just couldn't say no to anything. I was like, oh yeah, someone else contacted me, you gotta say yes, because if you don't say yes, then you're gonna miss your opportunity. They're never gonna call you back. That's bullshit. They'll call you back. They'll just call you back for the other project, you know. But I just thought in my head, I was just like, oh no, if I don't say yes, they'll never call me back. It's it. It's game over. Um, that 1 month, I probably made almost like a year's worth of salary. And I
Whoa.
was probably the most unhappy. I was like the most stressed and most unhappiest point in my life. I was like, it was like the lowest point in my life. Like, I'm not even kidding you,
Yeah.
man. Like, I was fighting with my wife. I wasn't eating properly, not getting sleep. My work looked like the worst part is that my work looked like shit, dude. It was so bad. And then it lasted for like, I want to say like maybe probably like six to 7 weeks, to be honest. I remember it being longer than a month. And I just remember thinking, I was like, yeah, it was awesome to get money. And I was like, and I was so unhappy, I would never do it again. I'd rather not work at all. That's how bad it was, you know? And so when you're talking about balance, that's kind of when I was like, I can't do this again. I can't keep up with it. Like, I rather not do art if that's how life is going to be. If you were to be really productive, and so the rule of thumb was only do what you can manage and only do it to a level that you're proud of your work, that you can actually commit to one client or one project, put in 150%. Whatever extra time you have, don't do another project if you don't need to. Work on your own stuff. You know, get better. I understand the money part of it is a big factor. People are like, yeah, but I need more money. I get it, dude. I'm totally there. But I think if you can focus on your craft and make your stuff look better, you can command that later on. You can command the higher rate. I learned that the hard way because I was just like, yeah, man, I'm just gonna say yes to everything. And I was like, I had to change that mentality. And it wasn't until I started focusing on quality that these studios that appreciate your quality of work will pay what you're worth, you know? And I don't know, yeah. So that was my horror story.
You have to be able to see long term in a way, you know,
Yeah.
like to think long term rather
Yeah.
than like temporary satisfaction. Like,
Yeah.
it sure is worth the price, you know, like the in your case, for instance, the money you get, right? But then the value of that, like, what's the value of that? Like, you
Yeah.
ended up fucked up.
You're just like
And-
so you know, you're like, because I remember I was like, wow, and then like I have nothing but bad memories of it. I was like, I hated my life. Like that money represented bad experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
And even though I was like, oh man, like, yeah, that was awesome. But I was like, I was so fucking miserable. Like, I'd rather be just live a humble, like, no money lifestyle and be happy and healthy rather than having all the money in the world and being like, feeling like shit for the rest of my life. I was like, this is not for me, man. There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Holy
why we
fuck.
did that business class for art school, you know. So like all of these mistakes that we all made could have been avoided, you know, if we knew like how to deal with money, how to read contracts, how to deal with clients and everything. Because
Yeah.
I feel like if you put yourself in a situation where you need the money that much, I mean, of course I know like people struggle and we don't know like each one's situations and maybe like you do need it.
Yeah.
But even then, like I'm sure like if you could go back in time and you didn't have to fight with your wife for that like extra gig, you know, it would be totally worth not taking. So,
Yeah. Totally, man.
Yeah, the worst fear is like working your whole life and then ending up in the hospital and then having to pay back that money that
That is that
you earned.
worth it? Like,
Yeah,
I freelanced so I can pay for the hospital bill. Oh
it's
my
like my worst fear.
yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Full circle, man. That's the worst.
Yeah, I think not enough people know about the business side of all of this. And that's what I think it's so much needed. Like almost as equal as, you know, the technical stuff, all the art classes and all that stuff. I think, man, like many people out there get taken advantage of at a point, you know, because they just don't know any better, you know. Like they
and
just say yes because they're hungry for the industry and stuff. And that's it. That's the perfect recipe for profit for a very unbalanced kind of equation, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of studios, I don't know if it's intentional, but I feel like, you know, they might know that. They might know that artists are, you know, tend to be more gullible or tend to be not as savvy on the business side of things. So they'll say and do things to kind of make you believe that this is in your best interest. They're like, oh, it's such a great project. It's one of a, you know, you'll never work on anything this good. And you're like, oh, I guess I won't. It's like, why don't you work for this price? And you're like, yeah, I guess so. That sounds pretty good.
Exactly.
And that's where they get you, right? And like you're saying, Adrian, I think it's very important. And, you know, and Andre, like, and Dom, like you guys saying, like, you know, it's important to be just as good as business as you are with art, right? It's a skill set that I genuinely believe that everyone should take. It's just something that they don't offer at art schools, you know. And looking back, I'm honestly, a lot of my YouTube videos that I watch these days, it's like on marketing, it's on business. Dude, lately I've been doing nothing but investments. I would have never have done that. And I'm just watching investment videos. I'm like, oh yeah, that 401k sounds good. What ETF is that? I'm like, oh, the rate of return is it's at 5.4%. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And I'm like, what the hell? But like, if I knew this when I started working, I would have been financially, like, you know, obviously more ahead. But that's kind of where I'm like, damn, man, like, why didn't they teach you this? I'm like so financially illiterate, but artistically very prolific. And I'm like, that's a big imbalance. I'm like, I don't think that it should be that way, you know? And we should I encourage everyone. I'm like, dude, God, like I know it's weird talking about money, and I know it's weird kind of like getting into the business side of things or learning about business, but everyone has to do it. Like you got to do it. If you want to make this a real career, you got to do it, right? Unless you come from like a billion.
I mean, it's not weird, you know, like the reason people are scared to talk about money, that's why they getting taken advantage of. But you should see the money part as freedom, you know, like you have freedom to choose your clients because then you are okay, you don't need them as much. You have freedom, like, to go for a treat or do something like that if you save enough to do that. It gives you peace of mind to focus on your own work. Like if you want to take some time to do a class or stuff like that, I think it's a mentality shift of people think, oh, money is bad, especially like in art schools or place where people are more less business heavy in general. Like you surround yourself with people that are like, oh, money is not important. Yeah, and it shouldn't be the focus of your life, but like to say that it's not important, it's completely bullshit. You know, like you can't live without it. So
yeah,
it's a weird societal, like, you know, maybe something that was not talked about. I know in my family, it's like taboo to talk about money. Maybe because of what they think it represents. It's like, oh no, you'll be judged, or we don't talk about money and this and that. And I'm like, you guys should have totally talked about it, and talk about it in an educational way, right? Inform us, like let us know about like taxes and stuff. Like, what does it mean to save? What does it mean to negotiate? Like when you're talking with a company, how do you know if that's enough? Like, how do you calculate how much rent is and food and all, like, you know what I mean? Just like stuff, right?
Yeah.
That you'd have to learn the hard way. And then like, I felt like there was not enough of that. Like for me, especially growing up, made me make a lot of poor business decisions in the beginning, you know, that I could have avoided. And I just feel like, you know, for anyone who's listening, like go either take a business class or go load up on a lot of YouTube videos, man, like straight up.
Yeah.
Study it, be interested in it just as much as learning like the fundamentals of art, right? Like at least you don't have to like dive into and become a money grubbing person, but just understand the basic fundamental rules about negotiation, taxes, right? And also just like, what is a good salary rate of entry, like for a junior concept artist, for
Good one.
mid-level, for senior art director, like at least understand a little bit of it so that you're a bit more informed, right? And I don't know, I just something I wish I was more prepared when I was dealing with it when I was younger. So
You have
how
like
they-
any YouTube recommendations for any of yours?
good one.
for like finance and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I love watching Meet Kevin. He's a stock guy. I don't know if he'll talk about like the negotiation side of things, but I just love listening to his market analysis. He's great. There's another guy. Shoot, he's a graphic designer. Um,
Chris Doe.
what's that?
Chris Doe.
Is it Chris Doe?
It's a
He's a
bald
graphic
guy
designer.
with
He does
glasses.
a lot of-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Usually wears a cap with God is a
Yeah.
designer thing on.
marketing. Yeah,
Marketing guy. I watched his he's on I see him on like Instagram videos and he does like all these really cool clips. I remember
awesome,
watching
dude.
his video a while back. He has some really good like freelance client like best practices,
Yeah.
That dude's legit. Like
Lots of advice on how to deal with that. Yeah.
advice. Yeah. And lots of advice on like simple things like what are some good talking points? Like how do you like talk, like how do you like navigate a certain conversation, and how to position yourself in a certain like negotiation stance. Like there's some stuff where I'm like, that's good foundation. It's kind of like when Craig Mullins teaches you about, oh, when there's light, you got to do cash shadow. I'm like, yeah, cash shadows, man. It's like the fundamentals of it. Like I love those videos that talk about the fundamentals of negotiation business. Because it seems basic enough, but it's so
Makes you feel
It's
like,
so-
how could I not think of that before?
Yeah.
It was so obvious, right? But
yeah
yeah.
exactly.
I guess it has to do with the amount of noise that's out there, like metaphorical
I think so.
noise, in every
Yeah.
way. There's so many
you're right.
distractions.
Yeah, definitely, man. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's hard to filter out.
And growing up with this whole thing about taxes and all that stuff, you're never interested in any of that. That's something your parents used to do, right? But
it's so boring, right?
It's always been regarded as, in my opinion, like the reaction of everybody around when that topic came to to the conversation was like, oh yeah, like you do taxes, oh yeah, like you buy a house, oh yeah, like you sign a contract. And it was like, you just do it, I don't know, like it's the way it is. and then when
what?
yeah but you cannot even grasp like the idea, the very basic concept of like what is
so many
like
layers to it.
yeah, exactly. It's so much more complex than that. And I guess that's where you might risk being taken advantage of at some point.
Yeah,
Because you don't
Yeah.
know.
because
Right.
you don't know, and
You simply trust the other party. You say, oh,
Yeah.
they wouldn't do
Exactly.
no harm, right? Like, why would
You
they
know-
want me to, yeah.
you know what's interesting is I think if you are, and again, you don't have to be like a CPA or like a master at taxes, but if you just understand kind of like the basics of it, you kind of know how to position yourself, by saving money, right? Like different, like things like when you're buying equipment, like computer parts or whatever, you're like, oh, this is going to be a tax write-off because it's allocated to my work. We'll do things where like I'll write off a portion of my office because I use it for work, right? And then my CPA will talk about it and he'll say, oh, you're gonna write off, you can do the deductions on this and that. And I'm just thinking like, that's really good to know, right? Because then at certain times of the year, like if I need to if I know I'm going to pay taxes and I want to mitigate the taxes, and I need to do like, if I've been wanting to do a computer upgrade for a while, then I'll say, you know what? It's a business purchase. Go ahead and do that. You can write it off. You're going to get that awesome upgrade on your computer, and you get to deduct it from the taxes or from your total reported income, which brings down your tax your reported capital gains, and it drops down the amount of tax you would pay, right? So it's like little things like that. And I know it sounds boring, but it's like it would allow me to be a lot more prepared and save money, right? Because if I didn't make certain purchases, for freelance or whatnot, that money will go to the government anyways, so why not? It's like, why not use that money, understand how, under tax laws and stuff like that can benefit you, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, take advantage
I know
of
it's not the most exciting topic, but yeah.
It's definitely useful.
It is, man. It's very on topic with the business part. I think, as we said, it's a very interesting and important aspect to take into account, on this journey as artists. Because at some point you're gonna have to sell, right? Yeah. Like exactly. I have fun painting and stuff, but then this is life. Like our world works with money, so you need it at some point. You need it. It's just a tool. It is. And money should be like a consequence of, I would say, your passion, ideally, right? Ideally speaking. Like a wise man told me once, like, do what you love and money will follow, That sounds like optimal, right? For many people, it's not that way. And you have to start rough sometimes. But ideally, you kind of move towards this goal of like making a living off of your passion, which is, I would say, our case. Then you can get more nitpicky and say, nah, I don't want to work for clients anymore. I want to do my own thing. And you do that and it works and it inspires other people to do the same and fail and then succeed and then spread the success again. And it's like a loop, you see?
Exactly. What do you guys think about, I have a question for you guys. What do you guys think about like your first job at a studio and whether or not, it should be your last job, if that makes sense? Because I know I have a lot of students who are just like aiming for that one studio job, and they're like, "Oh man, if I go to so and so, or if I go to Blizzard, that's it. I'm a lifer there, man. I'm gonna just stay there." Like, what are you guys' thoughts about that?
So I mean, my first studio job, so I'll keep myself quiet. I'm just joking.
You fine.
If Robert and Peggy are listening to this, I love working there.
It's the best.
No, to be honest, I was like very lucky that that this is my first studio experience. Like, awesome. They're great people, and I mean, since it's my first one, I don't know like how other studios are, but I've heard some pretty awful stories about like, especially the inside politics, that things that we're talking about, the film industry. I've heard that about the video game industry as well. But compared to freelance work, that was my experience before. Oh man, it's great. Like I'm a people's person, so like I like the daily interaction. I like the overall mood and the idea of like, although it's work and there is that friendly competition, the way that I see it's like everyone is helping everyone else to do a great work at the end of the day. So like,
it feels like when you
my experience,
when you get hired by a studio as a freelancer, it's almost like you get to stay outside of all that stuff, like you keep a separation, right? So it almost feels like a shield or something, like
like you're protected from all the stuff that's happening. It's like going to it's like going to your friend's house or like to your relatives, but you don't have to live there. You're just visiting, and it's always fun. You're like, oh. And then you go home, and they're probably fighting or something, and you're like, okay, cool. That's a really good point. Like, it is a shield. How about you, Dom?
I've only been in the freelance game, so I'm not like have any experience with in-house studios. But I mean, I wouldn't mind like going for a studio for a little while, but I probably wouldn't stay there for life. I'm more like a nomad.
Oh, okay.
So I like to move around a lot and just try different things. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So I guess many people feel like.
That was like one of the things I wanted to bring up was I'm kind of in the school of thought of like, when you go to a studio, learn as much as you can, and get the hell out of there, right? I'm like that. No disrespect to any studio, but like my mentality is, you shouldn't feel obligated to stick at a studio because they did you a favor or whatever. Go there, do a great job. Once you learned everything you could, or there's nothing else for you to learn there, move to the next thing, right? Because you become better, because when you take those experiences, good and bad, you start to apply them to another place, and then you start to refine your sensibility. You start to refine your ability to communicate. You refine you refine your problem solving ability, and you just get better and better. And that's something that I was I got a lot of advice from Scott Robertson. He would always say, like, don't stay at one place too long, because you can get stagnant, or you can get kind of comfortable. He would say always challenge yourself and learn. He was like, and you'll learn different things. And I remember asking him, I was like, well, how long do you stay at a studio before it's like too much? He would always say, like, a good rule of thumb is like 2-3 years, right? After that 2-3 year mark, you should do a self-assessment and kind of ask yourself, like, is there anything more that this place can offer, right? And if you're there because you're genuinely love the people, and you're like, I don't care, I don't want to learn anything, I'm just here because I love working with so and so, that's fine. But if you're in that position where you've been at a place for a while, and you've already done like 2-3 years, it's a good indicator to kind of evaluate, what your next move should be, right? I've had a lot of students in the past where they've stayed at one place because it's like their first job, or maybe they were promised something, or maybe they just had this romantic idea of like growing old at the studio. I'm gonna tell you right now, don't believe in that bullshit. Like, cut that out. Just think about each studio experience as a stepping stone to something greater, right?
That's
And
it.
take those experiences and learn from it, evolve, grow as an artist. It's like this. It's like painting only castles, man. You know what I mean? At some point, you're gonna be like,
Great. Great
"That's
point.
it, dude."
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
paint something else. It's the same thing. With studio, it's like, try something else. For the better or worse, whatever, you're gonna learn, right? And that's the thing, is like, and I felt fortunate enough to be able to like have a lot of autonomy to kind of like move around. So I went from games, worked at like a smaller game company at Universal when I was like freelancing, worked there, and then I eventually worked out with my friend Kang Lee, who did an indie game company called Hawken. Learned a ton, left that, did some freelance, did some contract work at Riot, learned about that. I was like, damn, this is cool. Worked in films, bounced around from movie to movies, and I was like, I'm getting so much experience because I'm not at one place, and I'm learning about how other studios work, but I'm also learning about what are the takeaways, like what did I get out of it? What can I do better, right? So it always feels like you're playing a video game, but you get to kind of do the restart button. You're like, cool, I beat it, but I didn't do that great. Didn't get a good score. Let's restart, and then you get to play again.
Mhm.
And you're like, okay, what would I do differently? And this is like the stuff that I felt made me better at communication, made me better at my next job, made me ask better questions, made me pay attention to things that I normally wouldn't, and yeah, it's just something I wanted to, see what your guys' thoughts were, and also just share with you guys those insights.
Yeah, I definitely heard
Yeah, I
about
was.
people jumping from a studio to another in like 2 or 3 years, and just getting all
Yeah.
the variety in terms of knowledge and experience and stuff. I think
Yeah.
that's really good. That's really healthy. It was my ideal view on life, like, oh, I'm going to travel so much. I'm going to move there, and then I'm going to stay there for like 2 years, and then move to this other studio, this other country, and visit the world and stuff like that.
Yeah, my
That's a
good
great.
friend Ben Morrow did that. Just travel
Mhm.
all over the world, man. He was like, that was cool, that was not cool, this was great. He just
Yeah.
tried things out, and you get to know what your preferences are, because you
Mhm.
tried it.
Yeah. I don't know. In my case, I guess I don't even know what to start with, because I've only worked at a local indie studio. It was a small studio, video games and stuff.
That's cool.
it was a very cool way to start. It was my humble beginnings. I first found about this concept art thing, like, oh my God, this is a real life application of this craft, like on the market. Like you can work like this is my dream job. Everything I liked about it, this was concept art. Whereas years ago, prior to that, I would only know about Googling concept art and finding awesome images from paintings from video games like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, next year I'm just going to just eat these videos from Feng Zhu, right, on YouTube every single day, and I'm gonna make that like a lesson. Next thing I know, I get a call from this studio because I was sharing my art around on Facebook groups and stuff like that, and I was like simulating like I was already working, like designing characters, and like I was having someone like an art director, kind of commanding me to do these things. So these guys asked me like, hey dude, you're working on a video game? And I'm like, no, but I would like to. And they're like, oh great, we're looking for an artist. So I said, oh shit, no way. So they introduced me in, to the game idea and stuff. The fact that it was 3D, right? Because it's like, I didn't expect that much from an indie studio. Right. They were already working with Unreal Engine and stuff like this. So I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. Then I got to learn 3D because I was not only the concept artist, they could not afford to hire the 3D guy. So Adrian, you're our 3D guy now. So I had to learn not only 3D for like ideation processes, but also for like final game asset, Wow. And that was pretty hard because I had no idea. Like 3D.
You did modeling and texturing, and you obviously handed it off to to put it into. Wow, that's crazy.
Thank God I didn't have to do any what's it called, rigging,
Oh, right, yeah.
That's messed up, bro. That's so crazy. I can understand why that's a separated profession,
Yeah. You know what's really cool about that though is I feel like only working at indie game studios do you get to experience the full pipeline.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Multiple hats, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel at bigger companies, it's so big that there's so many moving pieces that you kind of become siloed. It's kind of like you only do concept, don't worry about it. You don't need to paint
you don't
over
have a voice anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, it's cool. I like the efficiency of it, but then you never get to see the big picture. You never get to see like, oh, well, how did this look in Engine? Like, what did the lighting look like when it was if it's dynamically lit or if it's baked? Like how the textures come out, and I feel like you get a lot more of that visibility, that kind of hands-on experience when you're at a smaller studio. And that's that's honestly like one of the big upsides. But as you mentioned, the downside could be that because it's so small, you got to do a lot more. You got to wear multiple hats, right?
Yes, it was really hard.
Yeah.
Like thankfully I was making contacts at the time, on Facebook and stuff by posting on those type of groups that were about I think it's called spit paint, like you have 30 minutes, it's like a challenge. So I was posting a lot there, making friends and stuff. So I had some people help me out with doubts that I had about 3D stuff, like texturing, like what's a normal map, bro? Like what is that? Stuff like that. Like what's the albedo? What's the all these technical stuff that 3D is an entire world on its own. So I was diving into it blindly with ZBrush, which everybody was like, whoa, you started in ZBrush, bro? That's crazy. ZBrush is like messed up. Like they have their own words and stuff like Z remesher, I don't know, something else. And and it was a really complete range of like different, how should I say this, like different endeavors, I would say, taking on different aspects of the art department. I was the art department entirely. Then they started to bring some people to help, but so in my experience, I also feel like I got to a point that I was like, okay, I got to stick to this because they did me a favor, exactly what you mentioned before. But then I got the courage to say, yo guys, this is not for me anymore. I want other stuff, right? And yeah, and that was like 2 to 3 years of experience working with them and stuff. It was really cool. We got to visit lots of places because.
And are you still there?
Because of work. No, I'm not. I'm no longer working there. That's when I actually started taking on the freelance career.
Oh, wow, that's cool, man.
It's so much different and so much more complicated as well, because you have to organize yourself. You have to mind your own schedule, organize your time and stuff like that. Whereas you were saying before that, people like to be, I don't know, like taking part on the entire pipeline and all that stuff. Like, I'm sure that's not for everybody. Some people sometimes just want to be like, no, please don't mind me about that. Like, I just want to do the robot thing, the cool sci-fi spaceships or the cool dragons and paint these things. I don't want to know about anything else, Some people are more curious about all those things as well. So I don't know. I find this like pretty enlightening in a way. Like, the way it happens for each of us is a different path that leads kind of like to the same conclusion. The conclusion that you come up with, based on your own process, your own filter, I guess, your own experience.
I love that you said that, man. That's so true, because you might start at different parts, but then there's a convergence. It just kind of leads to the same point, and everyone gets there,
Yeah.
And that's where that's why I love sharing stories with some of my other friends who've been in the industry. I'm like, how did you start? And one of my good friends, Emmanuel, he's like a titan in my eyes. He's worked on like Matrix 4. He did stuff for like Blade Runner. He's this incredible talent, and he's worked in the industry for like 20 years. And I was like, how did you start? And he was like, he started as a previs, like 3D modeler. And it's like, and he wasn't a concept artist, but he, movie and to hear like kind of the stuff that he went through, I'm like, dude, that's crazy cool, man. And it's like, and there's like a convergence where like he's doing what he's doing right now, and it's just this really cool story. It's like a really cool backstory to like how he became the person he is today, and you can just tell like when he talks about things, there's like a depth of knowledge. I'm like, damn, I know what you're talking about, but I never experienced it, so I want to hear more. I'm like, that's freaking cool, dude. So
yeah, I like how there's many like similar aspects of the same thing. Like, for instance, I was talking about this idea that I don't want to worry about that, I just want to do this, and then you end up in a similar situation where yes, you actually want to do this specific thing, which is still full of a whole other range of things that you can cover, right? So what I'm talking about here is the difference between like, no, I don't want to work at an indie studio and be in everything. I want to work on my own, take on client jobs and do concept art. But then, for instance, look at what Dom is doing. He's releasing a book where he had to think of the story, to write, to assemble the book, like to put together the design, the UI, the layout and stuff, right?
So
it sounds like there's a lot of stuff to, right?
Yeah.
And it's still like apart from everything else, but it's still like a whole world on itself, on its own.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. When does your book come out, Dom?
I'm not sure about the second book, but the first book came out last May in 2020.
Cool.
I don't have any more copies, unfortunately. But
are you gonna do another reprint, like another run?
I'm thinking maybe in the future, like a couple of years, but I'm not super sure yet. But yeah, for that project, it was like I had to be my own one-man army because I didn't have like the funding to like hire editors and stuff or like book layout artists. So I thought,
you know what?
I used the
I feel like people are gonna want to buy your first book after you release the second one. Like they're gonna want to know about the first one as well. So
You want a complete collection, right? So.
Yeah, you will most likely have to do a reprint.
Yeah, dude. How long did it take you to put a book together? Like from from all the paintings until all the way to like publishing. Like how long was that process?
I was like 3 years.
What?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah, it's long.
That's badass. That's cool, man.
Yeah. That's why I'm like trying to make it to like help others eventually like do their own stuff as well. And like because that book honestly like helped kickstart my career. I didn't it helped a lot, like I would say. Yeah, that's why I wanted to make that to show people that you can do this to help, boost your art career in some way. But it's not for everybody. But if you want to do it, it's satisfying to see it like all come together.
I love that, man. That's dude. And there's something I don't know. I don't know if it makes you feel legitimate or something. It's just like this like printed thing. You're like, yes, I'm an author. You know, I mean, you can touch the pages and like, whoa, you know.
Yeah, it must feel like obviously it's way beyond this, but it must feel like when you 3D print like a 3D design that you've made. You know, you're only able to see like in a virtual set or like on a screen or something, but then to have it like in real life, it's a different story. I don't know.
It has a different weight to it, because then it's like if you 3D printed and casted like your own model or your own toy, you're like, here's my toy, and you're like, what?
Yeah, right.
It's like, exactly. My friend Ben Marley, he's like, here's my book, and I'm like, dude, it's differently, you know what I mean? Versus like, hey man, here's a JPEG. Like, what do you think of my comic book? I'm like, oh, that's cool. But when it's like, here's my book, like I signed it, you know, it hits differently. You're like,
exactly.
Damn, you made a book? Like, that is fucking cool. Sorry, excuse my language.
It's awesome, dude. It's such a feeling for sure. And you know what I found pretty fascinating is this first thought that you have when you find a new artist. You know, like for instance, you stumble across Dom's work on Instagram, and you kind of assume that he's always been painting like that. Yeah. So I think it's pretty interesting to see his evolution, you know, because this new book is kind of slightly different, you know, from the previous one. Like you take a look at the colors, the you know, everything. It's like the essence has like.
I was painting like John for the longest time. I switched gears. I said I was painting like you for the longest time, and then I switched gears like after a while. So.
Now you gotta reprint it. I want to buy it. It's awesome. It probably looks way better than what I paint.
I'll look into it if I can.
That's really interesting, because you can almost see kind of like your like a documentation of like how you evolved as an artist, right?
Yeah, because all the paintings before were just really shitty. You know, like all the beginning paintings, like they weren't good at all. Like a lot of the pieces, I would definitely redo them again if I had to. But yeah, it was just like seeing the process or like the journey of like making the project to see where my skills are at today and where they were at before. And like, yeah, seeing the artist journey through that book, but also telling a story that's like a world building project or something. So,
dude, that's awesome, man. Would you ever repaint one of your older images?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Dude, I would love to see that. Just because like I would love to hear what your thoughts are, because it's so fascinating, like the discoveries that you make, and kind of like how your decision making was so different, you know. I'm actually going to try to do that, like go back to some of my earlier works, like back in 2008, 2009, and just try to like pick away at some paintings.
You should. That'd be awesome to see.
I'd just be like, what was I thinking, man? This is
yeah. Because like before you're just like, this is the greatest thing in the world, and then like years later you just take off the rose-colored glass and you're like, oh, it's shit. Yeah.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow,
Yeah, we're approaching 2 hours now.
Yeah, I mean we're beyond 2 hours.
2 hours and 15
over. Yeah,
but if you wanted to,
this
say any last words to the audience about anything or advice,
some more wisdom,
last minute thoughts.
Oh man, you know, thanks for watching.
Sums it up.
Yeah, stay curious. You know, I think I will say, like, you know, just kind of be someone who's, you know, like, just try things out. Don't knock it till you try it kind of attitude. And I mean that across all boards, right? Artistically, financially, whatever it is, business wise, like other things, like, you know, just see what works for you, what resonates for you, and yeah, always stay curious. You know, always stay curious, and never just. The one thing I will say though is just like, don't get too scared to like move outside your comfort zone. You know, and I know there's a lot of people who they'll stay at one place too long, or they'll just do one thing, like one process, one way of working, and just kind of like know that it's okay to break outside of that mold, because you can always kind of come back to it, right? Because you've already done it. Even if it's a studio, right? Using that as an analogy, like go step outside the studio. You can go try different things. Doesn't work out, you don't like it, you can always come back to the studio because you know what the experiences are and what it has to offer. So yeah, stay curious, try different things.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for the knowledge and for the cool vibes, and for taking the time to come on our show.
We gotta do it again.
We gotta get you on again.
This needs a longer run time. Yeah,
part 2.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you guys ever do like live stream like paintings and stuff?
We were thinking of live streaming.
Yeah,
actually, I don't mind if you guys want. Like, we can talk and paint. I finally got to that level because I've taught so much. I can actually talk, like have a full conversation and paint. It's cool, man.
I can talk and watch, so it's a perfect match, you know.
That's a big struggle for me, man. Like every time I get asked to do like a demo or something, I'm like,
the demo has to be simple though. Like
I have
if
to
you
choose.
ask me to paint a tree, I can just be like, oh yeah.
No, but I feel like I have to choose. You know, either I focus on speaking, you know, because English is not my native tongue, but I.
Oh, really? Dude, your English is like fluent, man.
Oh, thanks a lot, dude.
What do you? What's your native tongue? Like what?
No,
what do you
so
speak?
Okay, so I was born in Romania. I lived there for 9 years, and then I moved to Spain. So I speak Spanish, English, and then Romanian. Ironically,
wow.
You know, the last one. But yeah, I've been focusing a lot. I guess I've been focusing so much on improving my English through these years. Ever since I started.
Like, yeah, I would have been fooled. I thought like maybe you moved here when you were a kid or something, and you lived in the States for like 15, 20 years, man. Yeah. Wow.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I figured it would be a nice way to make connections and stuff. So it definitely paid off.
Definitely
you know, otherwise I wouldn't be able to be here with you guys, you know. See how this works.
I mean, my English is half-assed, so maybe you wouldn't have been here as well.
No.
Listen,
but I mean, just
and I was speaking another language, I would be talking like a 3-year-old. You know.
No, I'm just emphasizing the importance of learning like a language such as English, for instance. You know, to just make these connections, and it opens so many doors. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah, I forgot what I was saying, but anyway, it was most likely about your awesomeness, and for just thanking you for being here, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything, man.
We definitely have to do this again.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
And
anytime. Yeah, let's do this again. I really enjoyed the casual conversations, and there's some really there's a lot of really good like topics and stuff, and I'd love to, you know.
I'm watching this again for sure, like many times.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Awesome.
Then thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching. You guys stay creative, keep being awesome, and like let us know something in the comments. Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this? Any questions, any suggestions for the next episodes? Anything. We appreciate you, and we hope to be back on soon. So thank you, everybody. Have a nice day, and keep rocking. Bye-bye.